We walked and we walked and we walked all night long. We did suffer cold and hunger.
When the Nazis invaded her hometown in Poland in 1939, Helen Wanderer's family fled with little more than a photo from the life they had lost. To survive, children had to be resilient. But now, almost 70 years later, some memories bring this retired teacher to tears.
My mother met up. Let me take my breath.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My voice is shaking too. All right.
No. Many who stayed behind perished in the Holocaust. Helen, her mother, and her brothers survived exile and forced labor in Siberia. After the war, they made their way to displaced persons camps in Germany, like thousands of other Jewish survivors.
I don't think we were very welcome in general. They called us already refugees. Bieżeńcy. This was a Ukrainian word, bieżeńcy. So to give you a picture how they thought about this, they said, I saw in the street walking 2 people and 1 bieżeniec. We were not people anymore.
Because of restrictive immigration quotas, it wasn't until 1951 that the Wanderer family was finally allowed into the United States.
We had to go someplace. America seemed good. Right. And they let us in.
Today, Holocaust survivors are viewed with awe. Overall, they did well in America, so their arrival is seen as a happy ending. But a very different picture is revealed in dusty case records now being saved from oblivion. In fact, survivors like the Wanderers often faced disapproval and distrust when they met with caseworkers at the New York Association for New Americans, a major Jewish resettlement agency founded in 1949.
It was created to bring into the United States approximately 150,000 survivors of the Holocaust. The records are primarily social service files. One might find affidavits of support from American relatives sponsoring a family. There will be social worker records of interviews with these refugees as soon as they arrived, and then most likely follow-up records, meeting with the folks as they begin their adjustment to the United States.
The files, now being archived at the Center for Jewish History, offer a rare look at how the survivors adjusted to America, and they show a climate of suspicion and resentment toward these displaced persons, or DPs as they were widely known.
In Germany, we were the DPs.
And then in the United States?
You people.
According to their detailed case file, the Wanderers arrived in New York with next to nothing.
I knew it was going to be a struggle. I knew it. It was very hard to get an apartment, and of course then to get a job. It was very hard.
The agency did try to help, but only on its own terms. The file shows that Helen hoped to work as a Hebrew teacher to support her 19-year-old brother, Hirsch, so he could get an education. But as the records detail, that led to a standoff between Hirsch and the caseworker, who rejected his interest in religious school as unreal and claimed that he was expecting the agency to operate as an affluent parent on whom he could lean for support. The caseworker sent them both to work in factories. And within months of their arrival, their case was closed, leaving them to fend for themselves.
And the rest, it was up to us.
Hirsch, later called Harry, had to drop out of school. But in the end, he did well enough in business to start scholarships for kids. Helen found a job and sympathy at the New York Public Library and became a Hebrew teacher after all. Historians say the Jewish social workers who maintained these records meant well, but reflected attitudes that were widespread at the time, shaped by suspicion of freeloading and a Cold War climate hostile to immigrants. And they were not fully prepared to deal with the more harrowing emotional experiences of Holocaust survivors either. Take the Pauker family, for example. Alice Pauker, an Auschwitz survivor from Hungary, was placed in a Brooklyn psychiatric ward after having a nervous breakdown. The Paukers were warned by friends to take her out of the hospital or she would be deported.
Many of the Holocaust survivors had severe traumatic experiences during the war, and American Jews, by and large, were not indifferent, but were almost frightened to probe and ask questions.
The agency eventually paid for Mrs. Pauker's psychotherapy, but chided the struggling family for not reporting money from their son's after-school job. Years after their parents died, the Pauker children learned new details of the ordeal from these files.
I take after you.
The Center for Jewish History thinks the agency records, 1 million documents, will be an invaluable resource for families and scholars.
This will be a very, very new important source of primary material for historians and sociologists who are eager to look at the experience of immigrants who came to this country after the Second World War.
Moreover, Ryan says, the resilience of these newcomers offers lessons for today's politicians about immigration policy.
The lessons that we learned from the success of these people, who came often with nothing, literally nothing, except a suitcase, it speaks to the determination and the drive of immigrants to come to this country, given a fair shot what they can achieve here.
Helen Wanderer agrees.
Throughout all our hardships, we all went with our heads high. Nobody knew how hard we had it.
Once you're an immigrant, you're always an immigrant.
No, I don't feel an immigrant.
No?
No, no. America's my country.
For the New York Times, this is Nina Bernstein.